Hi, that's right, it's the great and glorious and be famous one day, NickDutch back on the camera yet again, and yes, I still need a haircut. Alright, talking today about Protoscience initially. Protoscience. This is another one of my weirdo Wikipedia videos, so you're just going to have to bear with me, what the hell. It says here, Protoscience refers to historical philosophical disciplines which existed prior to the development of scientific method, which allowed them to develop into science proper. See also pre-scientific. Standard examples is that of alchemy, which later became chemistry, or that of astrology, which later became astronomy. But by extension, protoscience may also be used in reference to any set of beliefs or theories that may have not yet been tested adequately by the scientific method, but which are otherwise consistent with existing science. Alright, and within the list of examples, it's got various selections here, such as Babylonian astronomy, Hellenic astronomy, Indian astronomy, alchemy, and it also says Renaissance magic. Now that particular phrase, Renaissance magic, was interesting, so I thought I'd have a look into that on Wikipedia. And what it's saying and what it's talking about here is reasonably interesting and on topic, I reckon. Well, on topic for the kind of stuff that I talk about, because it's talking about a period in time when there was a split away from what we now call New Agey stuff and towards scientism, which is the belief in the natural scientific method. However, scientism also has its major critics these days, but that doesn't legitimize occultism. Well, let's just see what it says here. Renaissance humanism, 15th and 16th century, saw a resurgence in Hermeticism, Neoplatonic varieties of ceremonial magic. The Renaissance and the Industrial Revolution, on the other hand, saw the rise of scientism, in such form as the substitution of chemistry for alchemy, the dethronement of the Ptolemaic theory of the universe assumed by astrology, the development of the germ theory of disease, and the restricted the scope of applied magic and threatened the belief systems it relied upon. The 7 arts magicae, or arts prohibited by canon law, as expounded by Johannes Hartleb in 1456. Their 7-fold petition reflected that of the arts liberales and arts mechanicae, I think it says there. They were negromancy, or black magic, demonology, geomancy, hydromancy, aeromancy, pyromancy, chiromancy, and scapulimancy. The division between the 4 elemental disciplines of geomancy, hydromancy, aeromancy, and pyromancy is somewhat contrived. Chiromancy is the divination from the subject's palms, as is practiced by gypsies and other people, and scapulomancy is the divination from animal bones, in particular shoulder blades, as practiced in peasant superstition. Negromancy contrasts with this as scholarly high magic, derived from high medieval grimoires such as Liber Razelis and the Picatrix. Both bourgeois nobility in the 15th and 16th centuries showed great fascination with these arts, which exerted an exotic charm by their ascription to Arabic, Jewish, Gypsy, and Egyptian sources. There was great uncertainty in distinguishing practice of vain superstition, blasphemous occultism, and perfectly sound scholarly knowledge or pious ritual. So there was a bit of an overlap there. The intellectual and spiritual tensions erupted in the early modern witchcraft, further reinforced by the turmoils of the Protestant Reformation, especially in Germany, England, and Scotland. So there's a lot of historical changes which have attempted to put a nail in the coffin of occult weird stuff and replace it all with science, but there seems to be lots of like splinter movements moving off, and so now we got this the New Age movement, which is essentially an adaptation and a change and a rebranding of this proto-scientific Renaissance occultism. Study of the occult arts was intellectually respectable in the Renaissance and remained so as far as the 17th century, for instance, Isaac Newton. Okay? At the peak of the witch trials, there was a certain danger to be associated with witchcraft or sorcery, and most learned authors take pains to clearly renounce the practice of the forbidden arts. Thus, Agrippa, whilst admitting that natural magic is the highest form of natural philosophy, unambiguously rejects all forms of ceremonial magic, namely Goetia and necromancy. Indeed, the keen interest taken by intellectual circles in occult topics provided one driving force that enabled the witch hunts to endure beyond the Renaissance and into the 18th century, as the intellectual mainstream in the early 18th century ceased to believe in witchcraft. The witch trials subsided almost instantaneously. So we can say that belief in scientism or the scientific method, the natural scientific method as it's used by physics and chemistry and the like, is actually a relatively recent phenomenon, and it was only like 200 years ago, which is not long at all, when occultism was going full throttle, and that was, of course, prior to like all this Aquarian bullshit we have these days, and of course the developments of the modern witchcraft cults in 1950 something or other by Gardner and Sanders, and therefore the re-legitimization of the occults, but placed into a modern-day quasi-religious context. But it's still the same kind of, I say the same, but I think it's still similar to the forms of protoscience that I spoke of or referred back to in the previous Wikipedia article. So, what can I say on the results of what I've just seen there and what I've just read there? Well, this proto-science thing is evidently coming back in a big way. That's what the New Age movement is basically all about. It's reintroducing and re-legitimizing proto-science of sorts. However, it's all much more, spiritual and airy-fairy these days, but it's still moving away from the scientific method. I don't like the fact that the New Age movement moves away from the scientific method. I don't like the fact that people who are involved in the New Age choose, and I think it is a choice, as well as in some cases as a result of lack of intellectual ability. But some people do actually choose to go for belief rather than knowledge and state their beliefs as if they were knowledge, which is extremely upsetting, considering that the word science is used an awful lot when within occult circles. So there's a hell of a lot of hypocrisy in the New Age movement, and I think that's got to change and or grow and or be got rid of somehow. When I personally do something like a meditation and I have a strange experience, which can be, in some meditations I've had the experience of seeing a spirit physically appear in front of me, or that's what it appeared to. But I cannot turn around to you and say there was a spirit there. If I was less intellectually inclined, I would say that yes, a spirit really did appear there. But I don't know. I cannot say I believe that spirit was there. I can say that this strange activity that I did brought about an experience, but what one can do with that, that's open to speculation and further attempts at getting more weird experiences. Anyway, just yet another ramble from the great and glorious, soon to be famous, one day NickDutch. Speak to you in a bit. Bye for now.